The strength of these Kirk Allen Superman serials is in their laying a visual groundwork for the subsequent silver screen adaptations of the character. A certain degree of confidence could have been enabled to the George Reeves television program and further still upon the Donna Salkand efforts. In particular, this is in consideration of the photographic schema of the Daily Planet building situated in Metropolis, occupied by Perry White's gallant collection of journalists, editors, photographers, and coffee gophers. The image of Clark and Lois discussing Superman with Perry White in his office, this was an image familiar to American viewers, presumably well over a decade prior to 1978, even if they had not read the comic books. The Fleischer cartoons offered a vision, although for live-action realizations, the ethereal lighting glazed over the expressionist angles which distinguished White's office prior would prove far too challenging for live-action photography, certainly of this production's budget. Superman's appeal at one time was that he was the sole primary superhero. Now it is that he remains a pure, wholesome, uncynical superhero in an era of violent anti-heroes. Troubled pathologies, a fixture of costumed vigilante fiction. Superman dons a bright blue and red bodysuit, righteous cape, and sometimes still with his dax on the outside. But in the 1930s and 40s, such an angelic Übermensch was needed to counter the malignant mortals who deemed themselves qualified as the dictators and kingpins. As superheroes remain an abundant staple of mainstream escapist fiction, in comic books, cartoon series, and feature films, they scatter into categories of power fantasy, from the unhinged and violent, Try the Boys, Deadpool, or even the begrudging wrath of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, to the snidely elitist and self-adoring Captain Marvel, Harley Quinn, somewhat Jessica Jones too, the fantastically inclined, anything with Green Lantern, a lot of X-Men material, maybe even consider that newer Sandman project, or the sharply satirical and self-conscious while still and despite also vying to be all of the above. Any attempts to revive Watchmen, the MCU pretty much period, and Doom Patrol Legion or What If. What we know of as superheroes, they are extravagant demigods or overt gods who battle demonic villains and enforce a certain degree of safety for those of us who are deemed normal in comparison. Superman has the unique opportunity to restore faith in the superhero, and not because of what the archetype he inspired represents, but what he does. Superman still evokes an idea of a noble neighborhood watch role model, a man who, by virtue of his bizarre origins, truly alien intrinsically, though within the framework of a humble Christian-derived morality, believes in and embraces the ideal Jesus of Nazareth, protector of the human species. Where he can correct immorality, he will try. He has the unique disposition to be able to, so free from the harm of certain violent tendencies innate to this species. Superman is not dismissive of ideals and hopes. He has this privilege perhaps, not shared to the same degree by, say, Lois Lane maybe, though he always seeks to allow others the dignity of a dour pessimism. Now, unfortunately, the Superman we got in the 2010s was a malleable plastic for over-the-top action sequences, not at all distinct and possibly even less interesting than Michael Bay's usage of transforming vehicle-based mecha, yet did profess to be this unforgettable hero of old. The film could have claimed to be a more challenging, skeptical take on the Superman myth, but it tried to be both more so, and so wound up being nothing more than a generic grey action sequence from the worst of Roland Emmerich's work. Furthermore, it is now too difficult to imagine Superman appearing in a modern world that has been so shaped by his fictional iconography, both the optimism he inspired and the aggressive nihilism these fictitious fever dreams could foster in the aftermath of their extinguishment. To reinvent Superman, unless donning an alternative timeline such as Mark Millar's Red Sun, it might be missing some of the point. Superman is not only useful as a safeguard against our fears via a fictional medium, reminding us of the strengths with which we wish we could inherit from Christ, and the miracle of such a powerful man feeling the virtues of Christ, leads one's frightened id to feel soothed, validated, before embracing the Christly mission. He is also a safeguard against the inevitable fascistic areas with which superpowered characters could and would be taken in this escapist power fantasy fiction.